Yeah, definitely.
But I do remember too, in the early days, the one thing that, Stratton, not one thing, but one of the many things he provided me was, because it was before he really had any substantial website, was this flip book. It's got an A-frame flip book with pictures of all the locations, or some of the locations that already existed, with this just hideous Tuscan walnut cabinetry.
Oh.
In the hallways back in those days, they were red, sea green, and I think gray, alternating colors around the hallways, which was just, I know, which was not pretty. And I met with a woman named Sonia, who I believe still does, beauty product sales around the county. I think she works for, she did work for the old Bailey's, which is now Salon Centric, and I think she works for a different group now. But I met with her at Starbucks in PB and asked, her to, I think through somehow, I forgot how I got her number, because I wanted to meet with her and tell her about Sola so she could tell her friends and tell her other, her clients or, stylists that she knows around town. And I met with her there, and I was so nervous. I was sweating. I don't normally sweat in meetings, but I was sweating my ass off. The stupid flip book, flipping it, bought her a cup. I remember she came in, I was like, oh, can I get you a coffee? She's like, no, I'm good. And I was like, okay, well, this is awkward.
Yeah, you're like, right off the start. Not accepting the coffee, not a good thing.
Yeah, so then I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to get a coffee, because we can't just sit in Starbucks and not buy anything.
Yeah.
And so I just wait in line, and she's just sitting there, obviously, probably thinking to herself, why the hell am I here? And then got a coffee and then sat down and took her through this flip book. And she was looking at me like I was fucking crazy. but she did introduce us to a woman named Mindy McKnight, who was the very first person to move into Sola.
Right.
That moved to LA years ago, but she worked at Sola in the front studio at La Jolla for probably like 7-8 years. She did my hair for that whole time. She did my wife Lisa's hair that whole time. Did my wife's hair for a wedding. We were really close with her. She ended up getting married, moving to LA. But Sony was the one that introduced us to Mindy. And we opened that first Sola in La Jolla. We had Mindy and one other person signed up, and that was it. And I remember when I met with Mindy, I was going through that stupid flip book too. And then she afterwards, like, yeah, this sounds good. I think I want to sign up. And I was like, it's like,
you're like, really?
The cat that just caught the car, right? You don't know what to do. First sign up, I was like, oh shit, okay. Here, I guess you sign this and give me a deposit. I don't
sign
know.
My flip book.
Sign my flip book, exactly. And then she was the first one to move in. Then the second person only lasted a couple months. And when we first opened, I didn't know if it's going to go well. I don't know if anybody's going to move in except for Mindy, and but
how long did it take you guys to fill up? You remember?
Good question. 1 to 2 years. Yeah. It's a small location. It's our smallest in the county. It's only 18 studios.
Yeah.
But it took a while. It's in a really cool neighborhood, Bird Rock, which we love. So it's a cool community, but it's just hard to get to.
Yeah.
One thing, that took a while to get that going. But once we got it going, I quickly learned we wanted to have a location in Mission Valley, which was central. People contacted us, say, hey, this whole concept is cool and interesting, but Bird Rock's is too far. It's just too deep into La Jolla. And so then through that location, we realized we wanted to be in Mission Valley, where we opened the second, third location.
Yeah. I can just visualize you like sleeping in one of the triple studios or something, like, bringing a couch in, and you're like, well, you live here full time, I guess, until this is filled up.
Yeah, I think I did take a nap or two. I don't know if I ever slept the whole night, but I was living in LA at the time. I still
you would drive down.
So I'd drive down. I had a buddy that lived in PB that I would pay. I paid him like $500 a month just to be able to crash on his couch whenever I needed to. So I'd come down probably 3 nights a week or something. They all my 2 buddies that lived together in PB both had corporate jobs, so they would be gone all day and then come home at night, and we would just hang out. But I remember one time it was I think actually the day before Easter or something. I needed to go stay at their place, and they weren't answering their phone, and they weren't home because they're probably gone for Easter. So I had to break into their apartment, and I had to sneak around back, climb up on climb up on this their wall or their patio and let myself like jump down in. And long story short, as I tried to let myself down in, and my legs swung out and fell just right on my hip. Probably good like 6-8 feet.
Oh no!
I wouldn't get X-rays. I thought my fucking hip was broke.
Yeah, right.
And I couldn't walk for like 3 weeks after that.
Oh my God.
You know, and then finally they called me back like, you know, late that night. I'm like, dude, you know, you told me I could stay here. I'm paying you to stay here. Answer your damn phone.
Yeah.
You know, I can't get in because they had to buzz me in or something. I forget how we had it arranged, or I needed a lockbox code to get in. But yeah, I just, you know, crashed on buddies' couches. And then once that lease was up in LA, after we had opened Sola La Jolla, then I moved down to La Jolla, actually.
Gotcha.
Lived in Winded Cedars, right down the street.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very close to that location.
Nice.
So then you opened Mission Valley, and that's a big salon. I mean, that was a lot of studios to like commit to, from like going from 18 to like, what, 50 plus?
Yeah, so we had 18 in Mission Valley, had 36. And it's, you know, a lot of, you might know that work there or familiar. It's in the ground floor of an office building, because that was pre-recession. So that was probably 07, 08. And retail rates were so expensive. So when just everything was at its peak and people were buying homes on stated income, and just economy was crazy. And obviously everything came crashing down, but we couldn't afford, it didn't make sense financially to put a Sola in a typical retail center. So we did some digging and realized in that area, the zoning does allow salons to be in ground floor of office buildings. And so it's the end of a cul-de-sac in Mission Valley. It's right in the center of Mission Valley, but to get to it's kind of funky. Zero signage, office building. First one that we opened did not go well, right? But I just had a hunch that we wanted to be in Mission Valley, and we went for it. I remember Stratton came out in those days, would go visit every location because there weren't many. He'd kind of have to give its blessing before you would sign a lease, right? And so he'd come out and pretty much just you know, lick his finger, stick it up in the air, and say, you know, kind of gauge the wind and say, yeah, I think it'll work.
Yeah.
You know, and he said,
what did he say? Oh,
he just said, yeah, I think this is good. It's right central.
Cool.
He said, let's do it. And you know, we, like I said, we opened La Jolla, which didn't go badly, but it didn't go according to plan, right? Construction way more than we thought. Took a while for people to move in. You know, but then we found a location central in an office building, and a new weird concept for a lot of people. In the end of a cul-de-sac with zero signage, and you know, we risked it. Yeah. We had a broker at the time, Kip Stettenbauer, who luckily convinced this landlord that it would work. And at the time, there was a lot of office vacancy around Mission Valley, so excuse me. So they gave it a run. They gave it a shot. You know, and said, all right, yeah, why not? It's sitting vacant for years. Let's try this salon concept out. And we hired this general contractor. And now the way it works when people build Solas, we don't do this here in San Diego, but there's a kind of there's 1 or 2 general contractors that will travel the country to build salons for Sola franchisees if they want. And we did the first run at that, where we hired a guy who, good dude, but didn't know what the hell he was doing. and so we were, you know, building the salon in the office building with a guy that honestly had no idea what he was doing. But it did get done. I remember when we opened that location, it kept getting pushed back. And finally, there was like 5 or 6 people that said, I have nowhere to work. I need to be in here. And long story short is about 5 or 6 people started working in Sola when the hallways still had open trenches.
Oh my gosh.
And mounds of dirt in the hallway. And I don't even know if the hot water heater or the hot water was working yet. But I remember a woman named Tanya. She worked there for like a year or 2, but I remember there was a huge mound of dirt outside of her studio because they haven't filled back in the trenches, you know. And
that's insane for like liability.
You can only imagine all the
hindsight
and everything you were getting during that time. Like, hey, when's this mound of dirt gonna be? Definitely.
Yeah. So we're running up to about an hour here, guys. I know we're gonna bring you guys back on the podcast eventually. Kind of talk about the Ronald McDonald House, Know Your Worth campaign that we're starting up here. Any like, you know, food for thought for the viewer or listener before we leave?
I think just, you know, that we're definitely looking forward to next time talking about the Ronald McDonald House. You know, obviously everyone knows that, that they have to, not everyone knows, but, assume that the Ronald McDonald House has to be very careful about letting volunteers in with COVID, because if, somebody there gets sick and then goes over to Rady's to be with their child, it would be bad. So we're just still waiting, but it's obviously something very near and dear to our hearts. And I know I've been getting a lot of texts, and we get a lot of inquiries through Instagram saying, hey, when can I volunteer? And that's for the Sola studio that we have at the Ronald McDonald House. So that will be soon, hopefully. We were told April, then there's a bit of a COVID spike that delayed that. But, definitely looking forward to talking more about that next time.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on today. Appreciate it. Yeah. If you are listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube video, make sure to like the video, subscribe, follow us on Spotify. We'd really appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you guys.